Today is Tuesday, June 1st, and we continue onward into the year 2010, which is daily becoming more dramatic. Dramatic on the home front, too. JR is still in the hospital. Over the weekend, he required some extra medical measures, which means that he had to stay in the hospital during the Memorial Day weekend. His cancer markers are still at normal, much to the delight of his oncologist. However, JR has had some circulatory system problems, a little bit of a blood clotting problem, which they're working on right now. This is a side effect of the chemotherapy. He's feeling much better. They're working on nutrition. He's gained weight, and he's feeling much better. I talked with him this morning, and he sounds like his old self. He's raring to get back to work, and later this week, if all goes well, he's going to be seated at his computer, and we're going to be working on the Prophecy in the News magazine. But continue in prayer for JR. His situation is still on the dramatic side, and they're watching him very, very closely in this recovery from cancer. We appreciate your prayers more than you will ever know. Well, it's been a very dramatic weekend. You know, you've heard, of course, if you've read the news at all, that Israel encountered a terrible problem when they attempted to blockade the so-called peace movement. It was called the Free Gaza movement, in which a flotilla of 6 ships approached Gaza with the idea of bringing the Gazans, which consist of the Hamas wing of the Palestinians, aid and comfort. Supposedly it was humanitarian aid, but the Gaza aid flotilla was called by the Israeli army an ambush, and indeed it was. As they went out to do the blockade, they were met with all kinds of resistance. It's still unclear the extent to which that resistance was exercised, but a number of Israelis were hurt. There was a flood of contradictory information, but in fact, the Israelis, through infrared photography from overhead helicopters, documented the whole event and have very much certified that they were attacked by what can only be called terrorists aboard that flotilla of 6 ships, the Free Gaza movement. Now, the Free Gaza movement, let's face it, is Hamas. And Hamas has fired 10,000 rockets into Israel in a very short time over the last couple of years. They are daily tunneling under the border between Gaza and Israel. They are insurrectionists, they are terrorists, and the Free Gaza movement, I think, is a sham. Israel expected protesters, but they got terrorists. A flood of information and contradictory reports have been hitting the media since Israel forcibly halted a flotilla of ships attempting to break the maritime blockade of the Hamas-ruled Gaza Strip. You know, it's perfectly legal for Israel to blockade her international boundaries off the Mediterranean shore. And no one has ever contested that before. In this situation, we find that Turkey has become outraged, Iran has become outraged, Syria has become outraged. All of those factions are using this event to cast Israel in a very dark light as an evil aggressor. A lot of people have said that they see in this military movement an Archduke Ferdinand moment. And by that, they refer back to 1914, June 28th to be exact, when Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria, the heir to the throne of Austro-Hungary, triggered World War I by simply being assassinated. He was riding in a car, in an open limousine in a parade, and a Serbian militant assassinated the Archduke, setting off a chain of events that eventuated in World War I, which ran from 1914 to 1918. One tiny thing, one tiny element, such as the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand, set off a global conflagration. So Israel is now in the eye of the storm. Israel's allies have frozen military ties. Uh, they have summoned home their ambassadors over the storming of that aid flotilla. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said he was, quote unquote, shocked by the Israeli Navy's assault on a convoy carrying hundreds of pro-Palestinian activists, lawmakers, journalists through the international waters toward the besieged Gaza. So Gaza is being portrayed in the international media as the victim. Israel is being portrayed in the international media as the aggressor, and in fact, it isn't that way at all. Why did this happen? Well, you know, the chief of Israel's Mossad, that is their secret service, made a statement very recently. In fact, just a couple of days ago, Mossad chief Meir Dagan expressed public concern by the change in U.S. positions and influence on Israel. And I quote this gentleman, Meir Dagan said, "There are fewer Israeli assets in the United States. Israel's importance was greater when there was a conflict between the blocs, while this year there has been a decrease in Israel's importance." He gave an interview, and his overview of the situation, as he spoke to Israel's Knesset, was this. He says, if in the 90s the U.S. was a global policeman, a power that could solve conflicts, in the first decade of this millennium, the U.S.'s power to solve conflicts is limited. The election of U.S. President Barack Obama was a declaration that it was adopting a softer approach and did not want to use force to solve conflicts. It's been viewed as weakness and influences Israel's difficulty in diplomatic maneuvers. By this, he means that the United States' softened policy toward Israel has been a signal to other Mediterranean nations that it's okay to go ahead and move forward in actions that would eventuate a war in the area in which they believe they would be victorious. Well, I read from Amos chapter 9. And you know, in this prophecy, Amos says, "For lo, I will command," that's Amos 9:9, "and I will sift the house of Israel among all the nations. As corn is sifted in a sieve, yet shall not the least grain fall to the earth. All the sinners of the people shall die by the sword, which say the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us." Amos prophesied that Israel would suffer humiliation and defeat, but then immediately after this, he says, "In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old." This is quoted in the New Testament in Acts 15:16 by Peter, who quotes Amos with a slight turn. He says, "After this I will return and build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down." Peter thought of Amos's prophecy as a signal that the church age would come to an end at the time when Israel was brought back and made to suffer a number of humiliations in the latter days just prior to the kingdom being established. We're seeing this today. There are so many prophecies being fulfilled. Stay tuned. We'll be back with another Prophecy in the News update tomorrow.